Honestly, I'm frustrated, just plain upset and all kinds of annoyed. It's hard to wrap my head around what Sheila did to me. I thought I'd found something real with this woman who I figured might be my wife someday, but she just tossed our relationship aside like it was nothing. I guess I should start from the beginning. Sheila and I first met at a small private party. I was only 19 back then, and she was 22. People used to joke with us about the age difference, teasing her about robbing the cradle. That kind of stuff never bothered me. In fact, I was pretty proud that an attractive, slightly older woman like Sheila found me interesting. I'm not a small guy, about 6 feet tall and weighing in at 190. People have always told me I have a boyish face. As for Sheila, she had this natural charm. She wasn't skinny, but she was slender, with shoulder-length hair and a figure she was proud of. She liked to look her best, and honestly, she usually pulled it off, sometimes a little too well, if you ask me. Guys noticed her, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me a little jealous from time to time. We started seeing each other, and after a few months, she asked me to move in. She said she hated the feeling of living alone. Maybe I should back up and give you a little background before I get ahead of myself. I wasn't originally from around here. I moved out to this state after landing a spot as an electrical apprentice at one of the big auto plants. The deal was, I needed to take some training locally first. I did well in my classes at the vocational school, scored high marks. My dad, who already worked at that plant, helped set me up with the interview. I knew I was lucky to get this shot, so I jumped at the chance. I got myself a small room at the YMCA for $50 a week. It wasn't much: a bed, a dresser, a desk, and a microwave. The showers and bathrooms were shared, but they let me use the gym facilities, so I'd work out now and then. I even swam a little, but that was about it. Sheila was living in a trailer park at the time. It was actually a pretty decent place, mostly older folks, retirees with neat trailers and well-kept lots. There were a few younger faces around, but it was a big park, so that wasn't too surprising. She'd been married for a couple years, but it hadn't lasted. From what I was told, her husband cheated and left her for someone else. Then again, looking back, maybe there was more to the story. Either way, Sheila kept the trailer, went back to her maiden name, and was working as a department head in sales at one of the local Kmarts. She made good money, and she handled all the bills for her place. Eventually, Sheila talked me into moving in with her. Things were going great between us. We were close, spent a lot of time together, and I felt like I was learning a lot from her. I was pretty inexperienced at 19, but Sheila had been married before, so she helped me understand what a real relationship was supposed to be, how to truly care for someone, not just go through the motions. For the first time, I started to think I might really be falling in love, and not just because of physical attraction. Every couple of months, the trailer park would host a get-together in the rec hall. Sometimes there'd be dances or parties you could rent the hall for. They even had a pool for the residents. Most of the folks living there were older retirees, so when Sheila walked in all dressed up, I could just imagine those guys taking notice. She'd wear fitted skirts and tops that showed off her figure. I'll admit, she looked fantastic, but sometimes I thought it was a bit much. It was fine when she dressed up for me, but it got old watching all these other men stare at her. It made me uncomfortable. I even wondered sometimes what went on when I wasn't there, especially with those little swimsuits she liked to wear around the pool. Then one day, Sheila came home with a new friend, a woman she worked with named Gloria. They discovered they both lived in the same trailer park while chatting at work. Gloria and her boyfriend, Stan, lived over on the other side of the park. I met Stan at the next park event. Stan was about 40, a loud guy, always making his presence known. I'll be honest, I didn't care for him much. Gloria, though, was different. She was maybe 20, a little on the heavier side, but she was beautiful and had a wonderful personality. I was surprised she was with someone like Stan. He was twice her age and didn't treat her great, but for some reason, she stayed with him. They weren't even married, so she could have left any time. Sheila didn't seem to mind Stan. She told me she'd met him a while ago at work, back when he worked at Kmart in the shipping department with her and Gloria. She said she didn't know him that well, but saw him around now and then. Sheila mentioned that while he might come off as arrogant, he'd done something good for Gloria, though I never found out exactly what. Just as she started to explain, Stan and Gloria came over and sat with us, so that conversation was put on hold. Later, we were all out dancing, me with Gloria, and Stan paired up with Sheila. I noticed Stan holding Sheila a little too close, whispering in her ear, and even putting his hand where it didn't belong. Sheila just laughed and brushed his hand away, but I was furious. I told Sheila I was heading home, but she didn't come with me. Instead, she said I was acting childish. I shot back that she shouldn't be surprised if I wasn't there when she got home. She laughed it off, but I was hurt. I went back to the trailer, packed a suitcase, and moved out, back to the YMCA, since they always had a spare room. The next day, Sheila called my work and left a message. We're not supposed to get calls at work unless it's something serious, so I called her back later and told her not to call me at my job again. I wasn't about to risk everything I'd worked for because of her careless behavior. I didn't talk to her for more than a week. I was still angry. Then one night after work, she was waiting for me. "Jerry, please come home. I miss you," she said. "Don't you have Stan and your other admirers to keep you company?" I shot back. "Don't talk to me like that. I didn't do anything wrong," she said. "You let those guys, including Stan, treat you however they want. That doesn't seem right to me." I stopped him. "Jerry, I just didn't want to make a scene." "So what you want from me, Sheila?" "I want you home. I want us to be together." "Together? As what?" "I'm pregnant, Jerry. After the baby's born, I want us to get married and be a real family, me, you, and our child." "What? You're pregnant? How do you know?" "I took a test a couple days ago and then saw the doctor today. It's real, Jerry. You're going to be a dad. Will you come home now?" Hearing that changed everything for me. I was overjoyed. I was going to be a father. I hugged Sheila, kissed her, and told her I'd be back as soon as I grabbed my things. Her pregnancy brought us closer together. We spent time with her parents, especially her mom, who treated me like family. I was there for the birth, helping bring my son into the world. Sheila was so happy, and so were her folks. She wanted to name our boy Jerry Jr., and I thought that was just fine. Life felt good again. Sheila took 3 months off work after the baby was born. About 2 months in, we had a pretty big argument. Sheila wanted to go out and have some fun, but I thought our baby needed to come first. I tried explaining that I was working extra hours to provide for us, but she didn't want to hear it. We just weren't seeing eye to eye. I was on second shift that day, and I went off to work still upset from our fight. Honestly, my mind just wasn't on the job, and sure enough, I ended up cutting my hand. I had to go see the nurse at the dispensary, and she sent me over to the clinic for a couple of stitches. They gave me some medication and told me to just head home and rest for the night. On my way back, I stopped by Kmart to get my prescription filled and ran into Gloria. She noticed my bandaged hand and asked what happened, so I explained about the accident. She then asked if I was headed home. When I told her I was, she wondered if I could drop a package off for her. I said sure, thinking it was no big deal. Turns out it was some beer and cigarettes for Stan. If I'd known that, I probably would have said no. Once I got my medicine, I swung by Stan and Gloria's trailer and knocked on their door. Right away I could hear a lot of noise inside, and it didn't take much to figure out what was going on. Stan was with someone. He shouted out, "Just a sec, be right there," and finally opened the door, wearing nothing but a bathrobe. He looked pretty surprised to see me standing there. I told him, "Gloria asked me to drop this stuff off for you." I cut my hand and needed a prescription. I happened to glance behind him and spotted a pair of purple underwear and a bra on the couch, exactly like the one Sheila owned. Stan thanked me quickly, took the package, and shut the door fast. I rushed home, hoping I'd find Sheila there so I could put my mind at ease, but the house was empty. I even checked her drawer, searching for those purple things. They weren't there either. Now I was really upset. I just hoped she didn't have our baby with her, wherever she was. I scribbled a quick note, "Where are you? I came home early and you're not here. I have to run out for a bit. Talk to you later." I stuck the note to the fridge, grabbed my keys, and headed out. My head was spinning. If she was seeing Stan, fine, I thought, two can play that game. But then I started worrying about my son, wondering if little Jerry was even mine. I just couldn't believe it. I'd started to fall for Sheila again, and she went and did this. Somehow, I found myself back at Kmart. I waited for Gloria to finish her shift. "In about 10 minutes, she said when I asked when she'd be done. "You look like you've seen a ghost, Jerry. What's going on?" "I really need someone to talk to," I told her. "Can we grab a coffee or something? Just for a bit." She agreed, but mentioned she couldn't stay long or Stan would get angry. "Meet me out front," she said. A few minutes later, she hopped in my truck, and we drove to a little diner nearby. We sat down, ordered some coffee, and she asked me what was wrong. I looked her in the eye and just blurted it out, "I think I just found Stan with Sheila at your trailer." She put her head in her hands and started crying. "Oh, no. Not again. He's gone back to his old ways. That stopped me cold. What do you mean, old ways? Has he done this before? More times than I care to admit, Gloria said, wiping her eyes. You need to hear my whole story so you understand what kind of person you're dealing with. To be honest, Jerry, I almost feel sorry for Sheila. Stan can be smooth, but he's also really manipulative. I shook my head. Sheila had a choice, Gloria. Nobody forced her. I loved her, but I think our marriage is over. Still, I want to hear your story. Maybe I'll finally understand why you stick around with Stan. Gloria took a deep breath and started her story. My parents died in a car accident when I was 12. We were living in Kansas at the time, and after that, I came here to Michigan to live with my mom's sister and her husband. Things were all right for a while, but after a few years, my uncle started behaving inappropriately. At first, just small things like swatting my behind or resting his hand on my leg. I told my aunt, but she just ignored it, too afraid to stand up to him. And honestly, I think that's what I became too, someone who just looked the other way. She paused, her eyes looking far away. When I turned 18, he started getting bolder. More touching, more crossing the line. One night he came home drunk and tried to climb into my bed. I fought him off, but I was terrified after that. I didn't know who to turn to. I was working at Kmart as a cashier, and Stan saw me crying on a break. He asked what was wrong, and I just unloaded everything. I needed someone to talk to, I guess. He hugged me and told me things would be all right. I felt a little better after that. He almost felt like a father figure. She went on, later that week, I got in a big argument with my uncle, who basically told me to sleep with him or get out. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I wasn't a virgin, but he was my uncle. I ran out in tears and went straight to work. Stan was there again, saw me upset, and when I told him about my uncle's ultimatum, he said I could stay at his place until I figured things out. I guess I was pretty naive. After work, Stan went with me to my uncle's place to grab my stuff. My uncle started calling me names, and my aunt just stood there crying. Stan told my uncle to knock it off, and when he didn't, Stan punched him. Said if he ever touched me again, he'd be back. I was scared, but also grateful. Stan loaded up my stuff, and we left. She looked at me, her voice shaking a little. Jerry, you've got to understand, I wasn't thinking straight. I was just glad to be away from my uncle. When we got to Stan's trailer, he put my things in the spare room. I stayed there about a week. Then one night, he took me out for drinks. We came back, and, well, we ended up sleeping together. I knew what I was doing, even though I was drunk. At first, I thought he'd saved me, but pretty soon, it turned into him taking advantage. He started expecting sex and wanted me to keep his place clean. If I didn't do what he said, he'd hit me. She told me Stan lost his job about 10 months ago. She didn't know the details at first, but apparently, he'd been accused of harassment by 2 women at work. To avoid a scandal, everyone agreed he'd just be quietly let go, and the women didn't have to testify. Later, she found out Stan had been involved with other women there too, most of them single or divorced. I asked, why didn't you leave him, Gloria? She sighed. I tried, twice. I had nowhere to go. The first time, I stayed at a cheap motel. Stan tracked me down and beat me. I thought about going to the police, but he threatened me. The second time, he hurt me even worse. I missed work for 2 days after that. She went on, after all that, I met Sheila at work. I'd seen her around, but we hadn't really talked until then. I told her a little about my uncle and how Stan helped me get away, but I never told her how bad Stan was to me. Since the 4 of us started hanging out, Stan actually seemed like a better person. I should have known he'd chase after someone like Sheila. I asked, so what do you want to do, Gloria? She didn't hesitate. Jerry, I want out. I'll do anything to get away from Stan. But he's possessive. If he finds out we talked, he'll hurt me again. I told her, if you're serious about leaving and you'll go along with what I say, I'll help you get out. But first, I need to know if little Jerry is my son. Give me a couple days. Can you hang in there? She nodded. I've lasted over a year. I can manage a few more days. Just tell me what you want me to do. I said, don't tell Stan or Sheila anything about what we know. I'll be in touch. I drove Gloria back to her car, then headed home. I knew it would be tough to act like nothing was wrong, but at this point, I was angry enough to want some payback. When I got home, Sheila was there with the baby. I asked where she'd been, but she tried to change the subject, asking about my hand. What happened, Jerry? I was upset when I left for work and wasn't paying attention, Ended up cutting myself. She frowned. You're not blaming me for that, are you? No, but I'd like to know where you were when I came home. I was at my mom's, she said. But the car was here when I got back. How did you get there? Mom picked us up. Why all these questions, Jerry? I didn't do anything wrong. I tried to stay calm. Who said you did? I just asked where you were. She shot back, you're acting like I cheated or something. I was at my mom's, that's it. You're acting like I'm accusing you of cheating, I told her. That's not it, I just wanted to know where you were. And even if I was suspicious, it'd be simple enough to check with your mom, right? No big deal. Anyway, I'm going to take a shower and hit the sack. The meds they gave me are supposed to help me sleep. As soon as I stepped into the bathroom, I could hear her on the phone, speaking quietly. I couldn't make out everything, but the part I did hear stuck with me. Mom, I did something really stupid. If Jerry asks, can you please say I was there with you? I know you watched little Jerry, but I told Jerry I was there too, and that you drove us home. Please, Mom, I need you to back me up. If he finds out, I'll lose him. I love him, Mom, but I really messed up. I can't explain right now, Jerry's in the shower. Please, Mom. I promise I'll never ask you to do this again. I'm so sorry. I could hear Sheila sniffling as I started the shower. When I finished up and got dressed, I checked the hamper and there they were, the purple panties, the same ones I'd seen earlier, now stained. Looked like she'd come home, changed fast, and cleaned up before her mom brought the baby back. That was all I needed to see. I couldn't stay with someone who'd betrayed me like that. Now the only thing I had left to find out was whether Jerry Jr. was really my son. When I came out, I told Sheila I'd be sleeping in the spare room for a few nights. I said it was because I didn't want to risk hurting my hand again, but honestly, I just couldn't share a bed with her anymore. I was done. The next day at work, I stopped by the nurse's office to get my hand checked. The cut was minor, even though they'd wrapped it up like I'd lost a finger. I asked if there was a way I could get a DNA test done. She said my records were already on file and I could get a copy the next day for a small fee. $5 sounded fair to me. That evening, when I got home, Sheila asked if I'd called her mom to check up on her story. I shook my head. Nope. Why would I? If I can't trust you, there's no reason for us to be together. Relationships are built on honesty, right? She looked at me for a moment, like she was about to say something, but just nodded and walked away. We sat in silence and watched some TV before I went back to the spare room. She sat there holding little Jerry, and I couldn't help but wonder if he was really mine, or if everything had been a lie. The next day, the nurse handed me my DNA report. She told me it was easy to find, just type in DNA/Jerry Brown and the system would spit it out. I knew a little about these tests, the plant ran them for all new hires to avoid problems down the road, so I trusted the results. All I needed to do was match my sample with little Jerry's and see how they lined up. That night, Sheila was working late, so her mom was watching the baby. Alone in the house, I went to the safe, pulled out Jerry Jr.'s DNA record, and compared it to mine. There were barely any matches. The test was clear, Jerry Jr. wasn't my son. I think, deep down, I'd already expected it. Probably Stan was the father. It was time to set my plan in motion and finally move on with my life. Just then, the phone rang. It was Gloria. Jerry, Stan hit me again. I want out. Please, you have to help me. I told her, I just found out Jerry Jr. isn't my kid. Most likely, he's Sheila and Stan's. Does Stan know? Gloria sounded worried. No idea. But listen, Stan's been married before. He's got 2 teenagers, but his wife left and moved to another state to keep them away from him. I asked Gloria to bring Stan over to my place on Saturday. Can you do that? I asked. She agreed, but wanted to know what I was planning. I'm going to lay everything out for Sheila. Then I'll make sure Stan can't hurt you again. What does he drink? Gloria hesitated. He likes Jim Beam and Coke, sometimes he just drinks it straight. She was nervous, but I reassured her. Stay strong, Gloria. If you can, pack a bag so you're ready to leave. Just follow my lead on Saturday and we'll get you away from him for good. She agreed, trusting me, but I could hear the fear in her voice. I spent the next 2 days getting everything ready. I didn't tell Sheila anything. I found a small weekly apartment for Gloria and me, paid ahead, and gathered what I needed: sleeping pills, a bottle of Jim Beam, margarita mix, some rope, and a battery charger. On Friday, I played it cool with Sheila, acting nicer than usual. She seemed relieved. I told her I had a surprise plan for Saturday and to have her mom watch the baby. What kind of surprise? She asked, smiling. You'll see, I replied. She was clearly hoping we'd reconnect, but I just told her to wait until Saturday. I went along with her hugs and kisses, but that was all. It was tough, I was angry, but I kept it together. Saturday afternoon, Sheila dropped little Jerry at her mom's and came home. I started making her margaritas, adding just enough sleeping pills to make her drowsy. I crushed more pills and mixed them in the Jim Beam for Stan. I wanted them out cold but not hurt, just enough to keep things under control. Later, Stan and Gloria arrived. Sheila was already woozy, and Stan seemed surprised to see her like that. I welcomed them in. Drinks all around, I said, pouring Stan his favorite. Sheila looked nervous seeing Stan, but I acted like it was just a friendly get-together. Stan didn't seem to notice anything was wrong. He sat down on the couch next to Sheila, who tried to scoot away, but he moved in closer, drinking quickly. After a few rounds, Stan started to notice something was off. Hey, what's going on? Did you drug me? He asked. Sheila's words were slurred. Me too. Jerry, what did you do? Before long, they both passed out. I left Sheila's clothes on, but we undressed Stan for safety, then tied them both up with Gloria's help. We waited for them to come to. Sheila woke up first, groggy and confused. Jerry, what's happening? Why are you doing this? I finally let it all out. You cheated on me with this guy. You tried to get your mom to lie to me. I know everything, Sheila. She burst into tears. Jerry, please, I made a terrible mistake. I was going to tell you, but I was scared. I don't even know why I did it. It was only once, I swear. I shook my head. Don't lie to me. I know it's been going on for months. No, it wasn't. Just that one night. I was upset and went over to talk to Stan and Gloria. Gloria wasn't there, but Stan invited me in. He was nice at first, but things got out of hand. I tried to stop him, but he didn't listen. I just wanted it to end. As soon as you showed up, I managed to leave. I haven't been with anyone else, I swear. Please, Jerry, we can fix this. I took a deep breath. I'm done, Sheila. I can't be with someone who'd lie and betray me like this. She begged, what about our son? Are you leaving him, too? I looked at her and said, he's not my son. He's probably Stan's. Maybe he'll step up and be a father, but I'm done. She started crying harder. No, Jerry, he's your baby. I haven't been with anyone else. Please, you have to believe me. I laid the DNA reports in front of her. Here's proof. The papers don't lie. She stared at them in disbelief. This can't be right, Jerry. The test must be wrong. Jerry Jr. is your son. Please believe me. I shook my head, standing my ground. It's over, Sheila. I need to move on. She broke down, sobbing, and I realized there was nothing left to say. When I glanced over at Gloria, I could see she was trembling, clearly shaken by everything going on. Just then, Stan started to come to. He glared at me and spat out, you little punk, I swear I'm going to kill you. Then he twisted around to look at Gloria. Gloria, get over here and untie me before I really lose it. I told Gloria to stay put. Hang on, Gloria. I've got some things to say to Stan. Listen, buddy, I know what you did with Sheila. Stan just grinned at me and tried to act tough. Yeah, she was something, all right, he said, with a glance at Sheila, who was in tears. That was enough for me. I smacked him across the face, once, then again. You think this is funny? I snapped. You hurt everyone around you and just laugh about it? Stan snarled, once I get free, you and Gloria are both done for. You're dead. Trying to keep the situation under control, I called Gloria over, asking her to stand in front of me facing Stan and Sheila. I wanted them to understand what it felt like to be betrayed and humiliated. As Gloria stood there, I could tell this was hard for her. I realized my anger was starting to get the better of me. I paused, knowing I was risking going too far. Gloria quietly turned to me and whispered, Jerry, please, don't do this in front of them. I'll help you, I promise, just not here, not like this. She was right. I needed to calm down and think straight. I walked back over to Stan and took off the gag. Stan spat out, you're finished, you hear me? When I get out of this, you're both dead. I stayed calm. Stan, you're the one tied up here. You're not in charge anymore. I pulled out a battery charger and showed it to him. The look in his eyes told me he understood I was serious. What are you doing? Stan stammered, his bravado melting away. I clamped the positive lead onto his arm and the negative to his leg, just enough to scare him. He started yelling, promising he'd leave us alone if I just let him go. Sheila was screaming at me to stop, terrified something awful would happen. I stared Stan down and told him straight, if you ever come near me or Gloria again, I won't hesitate. This time, it's not plugged in, but don't push your luck. With that, I turned away. Gloria and I gathered up a few bags and quietly left. I made a quick call to Sheila's parents, letting them know they should check on her and Stan, but not to bring little Jerry inside. As we drove away, I could hear Stan and Sheila arguing inside the trailer, still tied up. Gloria and I spent a little while collecting the last of her things. Once we were ready, we drove off together, leaving all that chaos behind us. Chapter 2. It's been around 9 months since I last saw Sheila or Stan. Life moved on, but sometimes memories pull you back. One day, I found myself driving through the old trailer park, feeling a little nostalgic and uneasy. It was strange, driving through the place that used to be home, remembering how everything felt back then. I passed by the empty lot where Stan and Gloria's trailer used to be. Just an empty patch of grass now, like they'd never been there at all. Then I drove over to the spot where Sheila's trailer used to sit. It was still there, but it looked different, more settled, somehow. I parked a few trailers down so I wouldn't be noticed if Sheila was around. An older couple came outside, tending to the flower beds. I pulled forward and rolled down my window. "Excuse me," I asked, "does Sheila Ward still live here?" The man shook his head. "No, son. We live here now, bought the place about 8 months back from a lady named Sheila. Not sure where she moved, but if you know her mom, maybe she could help." I thanked them for their time, complimented their garden, and drove off. I figured I'd stop by and see Mrs. Ward, Sheila's mom. I hadn't said goodbye, and she'd always treated me like family. Pulling up outside her house brought back a wave of memories. The place hadn't changed. I walked up to the door and knocked. Mrs. Ward answered, and as soon as she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "Jerry. Is it really you?" She pulled me into a hug, practically dragging me inside. "Jim, Jerry's here," she called, and Mr. Ward came out smiling, shaking my hand with both of his. "It's good to see you, son. What brings you back here?" he asked warmly. "I just had some free time, and you all crossed my mind. I wanted to check in and see how things were." Mrs. Ward offered drinks, and Jim asked for a beer for us both. We sat on the sofa and caught up, talking like old friends. She asked about Gloria. "Are you two still together?" I shook my head. "No, but we're still good friends. Gloria went through a lot in her life, her uncle mistreated her, and Stan helped her out, but then he used her, too. I helped her get away from all that. After living together for a while, we realized we cared for each other as friends, not as partners. She's got her own place now, a steady job at Kmart, and she's doing well for herself. I'm glad she finally has a chance at real happiness." Mrs. Ward nodded, relieved. "Sounds like you did right by her." Then she asked about me. "What about you, Jerry? How are you doing?" I told her, "Things are going all right. I got my journeyman card and I'm now a certified electrician. Work steady, I've got a nice apartment near the plant, and I'm saving up a little." Jim smiled. "That's great to hear. Any special lady in your life these days?" I laughed and shook my head. "Not really. I go out with Gloria sometimes, just as friends. Truth is, I haven't completely gotten over Sheila. Sorry, I shouldn't bring that up, you're her folks, after all. I did notice her trailer is gone, and so is Stan's. Did they end up leaving together?" Mom looked right at me, her face a mix of surprise and concern. "Jerry, no. Didn't you hear what happened after you left?" I shook my head. "No, I haven't talked to anyone in almost 9 months. You're the first people I've seen since I walked out." She took a deep breath and said, "Let me try to explain. A lot happened after you called us that day and told us to head over to the trailer. We went straight over, just like you asked." Jim took over, his voice a little lower. "When we got there, we found Sheila and that Stan fellow tied up. Stan. Well, he was in pretty rough shape. I had to unclip those wires you'd put on him, he was black and blue. I'll tell you, you gave that guy a wake-up call. He had to go to the hospital, but he wouldn't tell the doctors what happened. I guess he was too embarrassed. The police came out, but nobody said a word, so they left." Mom continued, "A few days later, Stan was home from the hospital, but he started bothering Sheila. She told him to leave her alone, but he kept hanging around, Wouldn't let it go. She told her dad about it, and Jim had a talk with Stan. Jim nodded. I just let him know he needed to back off for good. A couple days after that, his trailer burned to the ground. He had no choice but to move away. I raised an eyebrow. How'd the trailer catch fire? Arson, Mom said quietly. Somebody set it on purpose. The police poked around a little, but couldn't prove anything. So, as far as anyone knows, it's unsolved. I paused, then asked the question that had been on my mind, how's Sheila doing these days? Mom gave me a soft smile. She's all right, Jerry. She's not the same as when you were together, quieter, maybe not quite as happy, but she's okay. She's doing well at work. She got a promotion, actually runs 2 departments now. I hesitated. Is she with anyone? She shook her head. No, Jerry. She hasn't even dated since you left. We worry sometimes, but she says little Jerry is all she needs. I believe her, too. I felt a strange ache in my chest at the mention of her with another man's kid, but I just nodded. Just then, a little boy toddled into the room, a huge grin on his face. He looked so much like me as a baby, it stopped me in my tracks. I remembered seeing old pictures my parents had kept. He walked right up to me and blurted out, "Dada." Mom smiled. That's the first word he ever said, Jerry. He calls Jim Dada too sometimes. I stared at the little guy. He looks just like me, I said, a bit stunned. Then I heard a familiar voice behind me, Sheila's. That's because he is yours. She'd just come in from work, tears in her eyes. She still looked beautiful, but different, more mature somehow. Her skirt was a little longer, sweater not as snug. She looked more like a businesswoman, but still the same Sheila I once loved. That can't be, I said. I showed you my DNA test. She shook her head. No, Jerry, you showed me the DNA results for a different Jerry Brown. It wasn't yours. I tried to tell you, I was only with someone else that one time. When you showed me those papers, I knew something was off. I never cheated except for that one terrible mistake, and I always knew little Jerry was yours. She kept going. After you left, I collected your toothbrush and hairbrush, anything I could find with your DNA, and paid for my own testing, cost me $300. I took those results and little Jerry's results to a specialist. He said it was a 99% match. You're his dad. What about the results I got? I asked. I went to your nurse at the dispensary and showed her both sets of results. She said there'd been a mistake. Turns out there were 2 Jerry Browns in the files and you got the wrong one. It wasn't even your social. She told me she hoped it hadn't caused any trouble. Maybe you were just looking for a reason to justify leaving. I looked at her, my heart a mess. Why didn't you call me and tell me? She just looked down. Why would I? I hurt you. You wanted me gone, and I figured that was what I deserved. You were free, just like you said you wanted. I was speechless. The woman I loved and resented was right in front of me. She'd made a mistake, yes, but she was also the mother of my child, the little boy I barely knew. I looked at the boy, now nestled in Sheila's arms. Can I hold him? I asked quietly. She nodded. Of course, you're his dad. She handed little Jerry to me, and the boy looked up and smiled, saying Dada, Dada, over and over. That's when it hit me, all the time I'd lost. I just started to cry, couldn't help it. Here I was, a grown man, holding my son for the first time and crying in front of everyone. Sheila gently asked, "Are you staying for the party?" I looked at her, confused. What party? She just smiled. Today's little Jerry's first birthday. Guess it's fate you showed up. I looked down at my son. Buddy, your dad's never going to miss another birthday. I'll always be here for you, I promise. Turning to Sheila, I tried to find the right words. Sheila, I'm not sure what to say. I still have feelings for you, but I can't forget what happened. Maybe we can just take things slow, one day at a time, see if we can work through it. I'm not making any promises, but we do have a beautiful son together. That means something. I looked at Sheila, who was tearing up, and then asked, would you go shopping with me? I want to get my son a birthday present. She looked over at her mom, who just smiled and said, go on, you too. We'll watch little Jerry until you get back. Don't worry about a thing. Sheila smiled at her mom, then looked at me, a new hope in her eyes.